As a child, I could probably ride before I could.
And the great thing was I managed to plant it the same year that my grandson was born, the eldest, George.
That promise of lifelong service.
Could the royal family be facing its biggest scandal yet? Rumors claim King Charles has taken drastic action after Queen Camilla allegedly tried to alter his will, removing young Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte. The palace drama is only heating up. Watch until the end and subscribe for more updates. The palace halls were unusually still that morning. Not the kind of stillness that brings peace, but the heavy, unsettling silence that makes you feel something is about to happen. King Charles woke with a strange unease pressing against his chest. It wasn't poor sleep, it was instinct. As he rose, pulling his robe tightly across his shoulders, he thought about the people who mattered most, his grandchildren. Charlotte, with her sharp little eyes that noticed everything, and Louis, whose laughter could light up the darkest of rooms. Memories rushed in. Tea parties where Charlotte's tiny hands barely balanced the cup, and afternoons in the garden where Louis tugged at his sleeve to share his discoveries. Those moments weren't about titles or crowns. They were about family, love, and joy. Yet on this particular morning, those warm thoughts felt out of place. Something didn't feel right. Charles walked toward the breakfast table, expecting to see Camilla sitting across from him as always. But her seat was empty. The silverware gleamed, the plates were set, but she was nowhere in sight. She was never late without sending word. His hand tapped against the table as he murmured, "Where is she?" A servant entered quietly, but offered no answer. The ticking of the mantel clock grew louder with each passing second. Charles's teacup felt heavy, its taste bitter. This wasn't just absence, this was deliberate. And then the door opened again. One of his most trusted aides stepped in, pale and uneasy. In his hands, he carried a cream-colored envelope sealed with wax. He bowed deeply and said, "Your Majesty, this arrived for you. It was marked private." Charles took the envelope, the weight of it sinking into his palm. The seal bore the mark of the Royal Legal Office, directly addressed to him. That word, directly, echoed like a bell in his mind. He broke the wax and unfolded the thick parchment inside. At first glance, the words seemed ordinary. Amendments to the last will and testament of His Majesty King Charles III. He froze. Amendments? He hadn't ordered any. His eyes raced across the lines. And then his heart sank. The names Charlotte and Louis were missing. Their places in the will, always secure, were gone. Erased. He read the lines once, twice, then again, hoping he had misread. But the truth was clear. The draft declared that his beloved grandchildren were no longer direct beneficiaries. His chest tightened. His hand shook slightly. But what shook him most wasn't only the change. It was the signature note written to the lawyers. Proceed with this adjustment, as discussed. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Camilla's. Charles lowered the paper to the table, his mind spinning. This wasn't an error. This was deliberate. And it wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal carried out quietly, behind his back. He whispered into the still air, "Why?" But the room offered no reply. Suddenly, memories surfaced, conversations he had dismissed too easily. One rainy afternoon, Camilla had casually suggested simplifying the inheritance. "Too many divisions weaken the crown," she had said, sipping her tea as though discussing the weather. Charles had brushed it off, thinking she was only referring to expenses. Another evening, she had remarked, "William's children will always be provided for. Perhaps not all need the same share." Again, he let it go, tired from the day. But now those casual words replayed in his mind with chilling clarity. They hadn't been idle musings, they were intentions. This paper in his hand was proof of that. The betrayal wasn't only in her actions. It was in the secrecy, the quiet plotting, the assumption that she could act in his name. The clock ticked relentlessly as Charles waited in the sitting room. The folded paper sat in his hand like a stone. He wasn't waiting for breakfast anymore. He was waiting for her. Finally, the door opened. Camilla entered, dressed with her usual elegance, her expression light as if nothing were amiss. "Charles," she smiled, "you look serious. Is something wrong?" He didn't smile back. His voice was low, sharp. "Why?" Her brows furrowed. "Why what?" "You know what I mean," he said firmly, holding up the folded paper. "The changes, the removal of Charlotte and Louis. Tell me why." For a brief moment, her eyes flickered. Then she sighed softly. "I thought it was for the best, for the crown. Too many divisions weaken the future. Sometimes hard choices must be made." Charles rose slowly, his face hard. "Hard choices? These are my grandchildren, Camilla. They are not numbers to be trimmed away. They are not pieces on a board for you to move. She lifted her chin. They will be cared for. They have William, titles, influence. This only secures the monarchy's future. Charles's jaw clenched. The monarchy is built on loyalty and love, not on cutting away those who belong to it. What you have done weakens more than you can imagine. The servants at the door exchanged uneasy glances and quietly slipped away, leaving only the two of them. The air grew heavier. Camilla's tone sharpened. Charles, you cannot allow sentimentality to cloud what is necessary. I was acting in its best interest. Someone had to think of the crown. Charles stepped closer, his voice cold but powerful. Do not mistake kindness for weakness. Do not mistake love for blindness. And do not ever assume you can decide for me what my family means to me. Her lips parted as if to protest. You speak as though I've done something unforgivable. You have, he answered without hesitation. Silence filled the room. Charles's hand came down hard on the table with a thunderous crack. You do not decide the worth of my grandchildren. His voice, steady until now, roared with conviction. Camilla flinched. She had seen his temper before, but never like this. When the echoes faded, Charles's voice returned to calm steel. You must leave. For now. And perhaps for good. Camilla froze. Leave? You can't be serious. I have never been more serious, he replied. This is not about casting you out. It's about boundaries you chose to cross. It's about protecting my grandchildren and their future. Her voice trembled slightly. So this is how it ends? That depends on you, Charles said firmly. For now, it is necessary. Servants were summoned quietly to prepare her things. Camilla stood still, her lips pressed thin, her expression unreadable. At the threshold, she glanced back once, not with anger, not with pleading, but with something hidden. Then she walked away. Charles turned toward the gardens. The crisp air met him as memories of Charlotte and Louis filled his mind. Their laughter. Their small hands in his. Not while I draw breath, he whispered. Later, in his study, Charles sat at his desk and began writing. Not a decree, but a letter. My dear William, it began. I must explain why I have done what I have done today. Miles away, Catherine's fingers trembled as she opened the sealed envelope. William stood by the window, tense as she read. Her face paled. He sent her away, she whispered. William read the words himself, his jaw tightening. When he reached the end, he folded the paper carefully and set it down. His voice was calm but resolute. He was right to do it. Catherine looked at him surprised. You mean you agree with sending her away? Yes, completely, he replied. His loyalty was clear. Catherine thought back to small moments, Charlotte offering Camilla flowers, only to be brushed aside, Louis telling stories at the table while Camilla's attention drifted elsewhere. Those memories now carried heavier meaning. William stared into the fire. If Father believes it was necessary, then it was. I won't question him. Let the world ask their questions. My loyalty is to him and to my children. Far from the palace, Camilla sat alone in a quiet estate. The silence pressed in around her, heavy and suffocating. Charles's words replayed endlessly in her mind. For now, and perhaps for good. She had weathered storms before, but this was different. This time, he had spoken with finality. She paced the room, her reflection in the polished floor reminding her of how far she had come. She had fought for her place in the royal family through years of whispers and doubt. And now she felt it all slipping away, but she made a vow. If the truth reaches the world, I will not be painted as the villain. Inside the palace, servants moved with hushed steps. Camilla's absence was a shadow stretching across every hall. But secrets don't stay hidden for long. Somewhere, an insider whispered to the wrong ear, there's been a dispute over the king's will. By afternoon, newsrooms buzzed. Headlines flashed. Palace rift over king's will. The city streets are filled with speculation. Some pitied Camilla. Poor woman, they whispered. Others defended Charles. He's right to stand firm. Inside the palace, Charles remained silent. A folded newspaper sat before him, its headline clear. But he didn't need to read it twice. He knew the truth. He whispered to himself, if I speak now, the fire will only grow. Eventually they met again. The room was quiet, filled with pale afternoon light. Camilla entered, her dress muted, her face weary but dignified. Charles, she began softly, I had to come, not for titles, not for rooms, but to tell you why. I've heard the reasons, he replied coldly. Her voice cracked. It was duty, not malice. I endured the whispers, the headlines, all for us. I believed in us. Charles's eyes were steady. Belief is not the same as trust. You acted without me on something that cut my family deeply, that I cannot overlook. She stepped closer. If I could go back. But you cannot, he interrupted. The choice was made, the damage done. Her shoulders sagged. So that is it? After everything? You will remain away from the heart of the palace. You will have no role in inheritance matters. This is final. She straightened, her dignity holding firm. Very well, she whispered, and she left slowly, quietly, her footsteps fading into the corridor. Later, Charles walked in the gardens, the sound of birds and laughter filling the air. Charlotte chased butterflies, Louis's giggles echoed through the grass. Charles bent to scoop Louis into his arms. Charlotte handed him a flower. For you, Grandpa? His chest warmed. In that moment, the crown felt heavy, but love felt stronger. Not while I draw breath, he whispered again. For him, legacy wasn't just wealth or titles. It was fairness. It was ensuring each child knew their worth beyond politics. But the question remained, had he protected that vision or set in motion a storm that could shake the monarchy to its core? So what do you think? Was Charles right to draw the line with Camilla? Or was she truly acting for the crown's future? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what side you're on. And if you think this story was dramatic, just wait until you hear the next royal twist that's already rumored to be brewing. Tap into our next video because this isn't over yet.